Even when you say that you don't wanna know, some part of you wants it, just reach deep inside. Some part of you knows that there's much more to life. And even if you turn your head to look away, your heart's constantly rolling. If you keep on ignoring, it'll roll away. Don't let it roll away, roll away. Roll away, roll away. Stay tuned, we got a lot to say. Consistently rolling.
Hello. I know it's been a minute, but welcome to the Consistently Rolling Show. I am your girl, Consistent. And as you can see, my partner in crime is not here. The title of this podcast is called Breaking News for a reason. I am going to introduce you guys to my partner in life. We got some news to talk about. I'm going to let her kind of tell the story of what's going on, and then we'll do a sit down where we ask questions that needs to be asked. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi, you can introduce yourself if you like. Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm Brittany Gibson.
This would be Inlel's partner for life, but his name is Morris Gibson. And what brings you to the show today? Why isn't
So
Inlel here?
he is currently locked up in the Franklin County Jail. Um,
You want to
sorry,
elaborate
Alicia.
on
I
that?
guess can you kind of help me out?
That's okay. Why is he? Why is he?
Um, he's in jail because me and my ex went through a really crappy relationship slash divorce, and basically, in short, he framed my husband for what he done to my kids back in 2021, and now my husband's in jail.
Okay. So the allegation is that he uh, assaulted a minor. Would that be correct?
Yeah, the
I'm trying to figure
allegation
out
it
the right
started off.
words because. uh
Yeah, the allegation started off with that he assaulted my daughter Cheyenne. But then after the kids were in their dad's custody, um, supposedly the kids were telling um their father that Morris touched more than one of the children. Like ended up being all four of the children.
So when did this allegation start exactly? You can start it
With
from the
Morris,
beginning.
or when it started with her father.
Okay. Let's just start at the very beginning.
Okay. So, my ex-husband is Dennis Martin, and we were together for a couple years. And through the time that we were together in 2017, he had beaten my son Brantley, and he was put in the hospital. And he was convicted for that and criminally charged. He was charged with simple assault, aggravated assault, and endangerment of the welfare of a child. Um, I was too scared to leave him after that. Some people don't understand that, but I'm sure some people will. Who, if you were a survivor from domestic abuse, but in 2019, he had moved out and he left me for a woman and her four children, and he just came around every once in a while to see the kids. He told me that if I didn't go to the police with everything that he has done, that he would never file for custody because he knew I didn't want him alone with the kids. Um, and then over the course of the next couple years, that worked from 2019 to 2021. And then in 2021, he came over for a visit, and he was bathing his two girls, Ariana and Cheyenne, getting them ready for bed. And I was in the kitchen cooking and downstairs doing laundry. some time had went by, and my daughter Cheyenne came out. She was crying and she was saying that she was really sore down there. And I asked her what happened, and she was like, Daddy hurt me. And when her father walked out of the bedroom, I had asked him like what happened, and he said he had to go, and he packed up his stuff and left abruptly. Um, so I had decided that enough was enough, and I wasn't going to be living in fear of him anymore. I was going to go to the police. So I took her to the hospital first. They had called law enforcement and children and youth services. She was pronounced no longer a virgin. And um, children and youth sent her to Over the Rainbow, a children's advocacy center, who talks to children. You know, they basically, it's where the police sit behind on the other side of a glass window, and they have trained specialists to talk to the kids. My daughter had disclosed in great detail what had happened that night between her and her father. And then they said just because she was a little young, even though she already gave great detail, they wanted her to come back a second time. So she did. She came back a second time, and she gave even more details. The trooper on the case is Trooper Lindsay H. Trace. She is with the Pennsylvania State Police Department. She said she was going to reach out to Dennis Martin and have a conversation with him. A week had went by, and she had called me and told me that she spoke with Dennis Martin, and he said that I was whoring around with a whole bunch of guys, but it wasn't him. I told her that it was not fair to take his word for it because this is a serious matter, and I told her that that was not true. I don't have any other guys around. She said that with it being such a serious crime, she's sorry, or yeah, such a serious crime. She said she's sorry that she cannot do anything more about it because she said they have to prove without a doubt before they can lock somebody up and charge them with something like that. But she said that she would let the case open in case new evidence came forward. And I said,
Okay,
okay,
wait,
thank you.
wait. Okay, take a breath. Because you said something here that, so instead of doing an investigation, they just dropped the case. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Right. Yeah, she said she was going to let it open, but they didn't do anything other than call dad and ask him, and he said no.
Okay. All right, so they dropped the case. So the allegation of the baby getting hurt was dropped. No further investigation was done. Correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So when did you and Morris, or we as to the show calls him and Lil, when did you guys meet?
We've known each other for a while, but we didn't start talking again and meet up until November of 2021. We started talking, and then December we hung out a few times in public. Like we took the kids to some light shows, and then January we went up to his house of 2022. We went up to his house and hung out a few times, and then he moved in with me in February of 2022.
Okay. Okay. So so at that time, how was the relationship with your children's father and Lil? What was their
Um,
relationship dynamic at that time?
I mean, they really didn't talk. They didn't talk. It
They
was
didn't
always
talk at
just
all.
me. Like, no, I communicated with them through like a court appointed app about visitations, and I would take them to the visitations. The only time my ex had ever talked to Morris was when we all went to a doctor's appointment for Cheyenne, and he had thanked Morris for helping and being there for Cheyenne.
Do you remember what year that was?
That was in 2022.
2022. Okay. So then, how did this allegation come back up that they directed it to Enlil?
So Cheyenne's Dennis Martin, my ex, has been trying to get unsupervised visits with the kids. He's very ticked off that he's still in supervised visits. So our local library is where he sees the girls, and it's got like a kids center, and um at the back, it's got a big glass room. So like usually I supervise the visits, and I said I have to sit on the outside of that room so I can see them at all times, but I can't hear them at all times, you know. And he had been trying to get off of supervised visits and it wasn't approved. He had asked for a GAL to be appointed to the case. A GAL is a guardian ad litem, and she goes and gets to know dad and mom and the kids, and like she tries to make a decision like if both parents are good for the kids or what parent is better for the kids, and you know, like all that stuff. So she got appointed to the case. Well, we actually had one before her, but for some reason she was removed, and then this one was put on the case. Her name's Carly Hoover, and she got put on the case. And when I had my visit, was the last visit that I had was September 11th. It was Monday, September 11th of 2023. I tried to cancel that day because I wasn't feeling good. I was overdue with my daughter, and Dennis's attorney told me that if I canceled, they would hold me in contempt of court. So I forced myself to go, even though I wasn't feeling well. And I forced myself to go, and when I got there, I found it strange that dad's girlfriend wasn't there because I'm sorry, hold on. I found it strange that dad's girlfriend wasn't there because she so sorry, because she always is all like, she always has to be around. She's one of those really clingy girlfriends, has to know everything, be there, you know, for everything. So I found it strange that she was not with him. The visit started at 4 to 8, and the GAL wasn't supposed to be there till 5:30. So it was just dad in there. I dropped the girls off in the room and went on the outside of the room to watch. And about 5 o'clock, my daughter Cheyenne came out crying, and she was saying, "Mommy, I want to go home. I want to go home." She said, "Daddy's being mean." She said, "He's being mean. He's telling me to say mean things." So I was like, "Cheyenne, what are you talking about? Like, calm down." You know, I tried to calm her down. So her father walks out of the room, and he's like, "She's just being Cheyenne. She's mad because I told her she couldn't have her sister's toy." I said, "No, she's saying that you're telling her something." And he's like, "No." He said, "She's just exaggerating." And he took her and he scooted her back into the room. He's like, "She's fine." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, if she keeps complaining, I'm gonna have to come in and address the issue." He says, "It's fine. I got her." So he took her back in the room. Stupidly enough, I didn't do enough that day because, again, I wasn't feeling well. So I sat back down and just continued to watch them. About 20 minutes later, the GAL shows up and she's laughing and carrying on with dad's girlfriend, which I thought was strange because they seemed like they had like a personal relationship, which we're not allowed to have with them. And she introduced herself to me, and I remember hearing dad's girlfriend tell her, "If you need that other paperwork, I can get you that other paperwork." I don't know what that was about, but it's just something that stuck out. Like, if I don't know if she was like trying to, you know, persuade her or something ahead of time, but whatever. So the GAL goes in and she sits down with my girls and their father and his girlfriend, and she starts asking them questions about like her stepdad and her home life, and with me and her father, and just like normal stuff. And Cheyenne was like, "You mean Daddy Morris?" And she's like, "No." She said, "Daddy Morris is Morris. He's your stepfather." And she's like, "No, he's Daddy Morris." And she's like, "And this is Denny," because ever since that first alleged incident with Cheyenne and her father in 2021, she refuses to call him daddy. She calls him Denny. Well, the GAL was like, "Why do you call your father Denny?" She's like, "Did your mommy tell you to do that?" And she's like, "No." She says, "I do it because I'm mad at him. He hurt me a long time ago." So the GAL said, "Well, what did he do to hurt you?" And she put her head down and started crying. And she looked up, she looked at her father and turned back to the GAL and she said, I mean, Daddy Morris hurt me." So the GAL doesn't ask her any more questions after that. She dropped it. She came out. She talked to me and said that um that, you know, Cheyenne had made a disclosure or whatever about her stepfather hurting her. And I had told her, I was like, well, I will do what I need to do to err on the side of caution until we figure this out with my husband being around the kids. I said, but I said, you got to understand something, and I explained the situation about what happened back in 2021 with her father and how it was never properly investigated. And she's like, okay, I'll look into it. But
I'm sorry to
that
cut you off, but were
Mhm.
you in the room when she made the statement, or is this
No,
was something that was told to you?
no, I wasn't. That's what no. That's what I was told. So, because I have to stay out in that other room. They're in the glass room. I can just see them. I can't hear them. So, um, when we got on the way home that night, when I loaded the girls up from the library, they had cut the visit short because of everything. And on the way home that night, um, Cheyenne started crying. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was crying. I mean, I shouldn't have cried in front of my kids, but I was crying. And Cheyenne had said, "Mommy, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm sorry I upset you." I said, "You didn't upset me." And she said, "Did I get you in trouble?" I said, "No, you didn't get me in trouble. Why do you think you got me in trouble?" She said, "'Cause Daddy said that if I didn't lie about Morris, that the cops are gonna take you away." And I was just kind of speechless. So I pulled over and I told her not to talk about it no more. And, I calmed her down, gave her my phone, actually the tablet, gave her the tablet. It was like an old phone for watching Netflix and stuff. And I got out of the car and I called my mom to calm down because I was shocked by what she said. So once I calmed down, I got back in the vehicle and drove home, and CYS was already at my door waiting on me. They had taken Cheyenne out of the car and they had took her to a room alone in the house and they spoke with her. They told me after they had spoke with her that she told them all kinds of fun things that she did with me, all kinds of fun things that she did with Morris, but she didn't say anything bad about us. And she said, has anybody ever hurt you? And the daughter just expressed that, her dad did a long time ago. And she calls him, dad or Denny, whatever. So she's like, okay. And CYS said they went over it with her a couple times to make sure when she said dad or Denny that it was the same person, not Mr. Gibson. So they left. They told me that they felt it was safe for her to be there, but they wanted to put a safety order in place just because they have to do an investigation. So I said, okay. So the safety order was just that I had to supervise my husband. So I said, okay. So I signed that. That night after they left, I took the kids, packed them up, took them to my mom's, dropped them off because we were gearing up for my C-section. Took them, dropped them off at my mom's. I had asked my mother, I said, can you just take my daughter to Hershey Medical Center at some point in time this week and have her examined down there, make sure nobody has touched with her recently, you know? And she's like, yeah, she would do that. I said, okay. And so then the next day I got up, I had my C-section. My mom was planning on taking the girls Thursday to Chocolate World. So she told me she was just going to take Cheyenne to the hospital on Thursday after they get done at Chocolate World because it's right across the street. So I said, okay. So I had my baby. And then the day after I had my baby, I was emailed some court documents stating that my ex filed for emergency custody of the girls and that it was granted and I had to surrender the kids. So, so I did. I tried to get a hold of my mom to figure out where she was at. It was later in the evening till I had knowledge of this. And I got a hold of my mom. She's at Hershey Medical Center, still with the girls. So I went over there and I told her the news. And when I got over there, I told Hershey Medical Center, like, I don't have custody of these kids anymore. And they said, that's fine. They said they heard there's concern for sexual abuse. So they said they were going to take the kids into their custody. They would make the phone calls to CYS. So they took the girls. They examined them both. Cheyenne was fine. She was, they did all the little tests to make sure she wasn't touched with or messed with. Um, and they had talked to Cheyenne. Um, their specialist had talked to Cheyenne in a room with a couple other people around. And I have a copy of that medical report with what Cheyenne said. Basically, Cheyenne disclosed to them that she lied on her daddy Morris because her biological father Denny told her to lie and and she was scared. And so that's why she lied on her. But then she goes into saying that, her real father is the only one that's ever hurt her. And so Hershey was not comfortable releasing her to the father. Um, so they called Dauphin County CYS. That's the CYS close to that hospital. And CYS was going to put in a safety plan, and I think they were going to send them to like some sort of foster care next to kin. But they realized that the kids were from Franklin County, so they called the local Franklin County CYS. The local Franklin County CYS said that they believe that dad and mom coach the kids all the time. So they said they're just going to let the court order be what it is, and they're going to give the kids to father.
So when
So
they said that dad and mom, one second. So dad and so this was around what timeline, if you don't mind me asking,
this would have been Friday, September 15th.
of 2023.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when they're saying that dad and mom coaches kids all the time, what did they mean by that?
They I guess came to the conclusion because like over the last couple years, dad's always calling CYS. Like the one day he called CYS and said that my daughter had a black and blue eye, and they came out right away and they asked me to see my daughter, and I had just pulled in the driveway and I pulled her out of the car and she had like not even the slightest trace of a black and blue eye. And they were like, they kind of looked at me. They were like, well, he said she has a black and blue eye. And I'm like, well, she obviously don't. So they said, well, let me see the other kids in the house. So I left them and proved that that was just a bogus rumor that he was, like a wild goose chase that he was sending them on, and that's just what he does. And so I guess that's kind of what they mean. I don't know why they said that why they said both parents, because I've not done it and they've not had anything like that happen with me, but I guess maybe they just wanted to be fair. So I didn't take offense to it. I just said, well, if both parents coach the kids, if you think both parents coach the kids, or you think both parents lie, or whatever the case may be, this is a serious issue. Like with her saying that somebody sexually hurt her. And I was like, so why don't you put the kids in foster care like Dauphin County was going to do, or put the kids with another family member and keep them from both parents until you get this figured out. But she said she wasn't interested in changing up the current court order. So they gave the kids to dad.
So when you say she, who exactly are you talking about?
Mariana, she's the caseworker from Franklin County Children and Youth.
Okay. And then have there been other allegations against father as far as hurting the children?
Oh yeah, I have taken videos. One that I posted on my Facebook, I took a video of him when he came over. I had a camera set up in the kitchen and I had to walk away for a minute, and he had took the girl and put her in the corner and was like pushing on the back of her neck, and he left prints on the back of her neck, like where he was like kind of choking her from the back of the neck. And I taken that to CYS. The video footage of that with her screaming. I've taken video footage of us at the library from another occasion where he's not supposed to take the girls alone or out of sight, and he did. He tried to let the girlfriend keep the one kid in the room so he could take Cheyenne outside, and I guess to kind of make me feel like I was torn between the two girls, which didn't work because I just took my other daughter out with me. And when I went outside to catch up with him, he was out yelling at her in the corner of the parking lot, and like had his hand on her inappropriately. Like I have videos of all that because when I went out, I started recording, and I started recording all that. And there was times where he had them during his visits, and he would pinch them. Like, I know that sounds like childish, I guess, to say about pinching, but he would pinch them hard enough that they would have really huge bruising on their inner thighs. Where he would pinch them at, like, whenever they weren't listening or obeying him, he would pinch the crap out of them and let bruises. Like, I'm not going to lie. Have I ever pinched my kid out in public if they were screaming? Yeah, I've given him a quick pinch, but I have never left a mark on my kids, far less a huge bruise. And I always documented, like I always took pictures of the kids before they left and pictures of the kids when they come back. I'm like, hey, look, I'm yelling at this dude to stop pinching them at the visits and stop doing this or slapping their hands or squeezing their wrists. And he lets bruise marks all over their wrists. And I said, I got pictures, I got video footage, and I've taken that to them, but they don't do nothing with it.
So then do they just feel like at this point it's just a custody thing that's going on between you guys, because you guys are upset and don't know how to parent each parent or co-parent rather, and this is why the guardian was supposed to be the mediator for you guys?
Possible, but they didn't ask for most of the time they asked for a GAL to get in the middle, but they didn't request for a GAL to get in the middle. My ex-husband did.
Do you know his logic for asking for?
No, other than he wanted to be off supervised visits, and I guess he thought that if he had a GAL come in and maybe hear his side of the story, she might get him that.
Okay. So so we're back at the kids went to the doctors. They're getting removed for custody. And so we're still trying to figure out where they're going. The social worker was not interested in putting them in foster care. They were just interested in taking them out of your care and taking them
Yeah,
to dad. Would that be correct? Okay.
correct.
So after that, what happened?
So after that, Dad got the kids, and they have so long to send the kids to the Children's Advocacy Center, which is where I took Cheyenne before, and she gave disclosures. Um, because they don't want the kids to they give them like a week or so because they don't want it to go too long because they are afraid of coaching. So the girls were with their father for well over a month before they took Cheyenne to the Children's Advocacy Center to talk about, what she alleged happened. Which my custody attorney called me and said he didn't understand what was taking him so long, that's not allowed. They have to, act in a timely manner, as I said. But it was over a month, and then that had went by, and they took her. When she went, she didn't make a disclosure about Morris. She just talked about good things at my house, from what I was told, which was from CYS, because I called into CYS to ask them how the case was coming along. And they said she went there the first time and she didn't discuss anything. Because she didn't discuss anything, they didn't want to let her come back a second time. They only let them come back a second time if they make a disclosure. But they because she didn't make a disclosure, they didn't want her to come back again. They didn't feel the need. However, Dad begged and begged and begged. So they finally left her come back again, which was a few more weeks that had went by before she came back the second time. So she came back the second time, and that's when she made a disclosure against my husband. Basically saying the same thing she told the GAL, and she said that mommy was not around. Mommy was at the store. And then
So during this time, you guys had no communication with the kids, right?
correct. Yep, that's correct.
And it took him about a month before she went and talked to somebody to um, give her side of allegation of someone hurting her or allegedly hurting her, correct?
Right. Yep.
And then you said after that it took them 2 more weeks to do so?
Yeah, it took him like 2 more weeks to take her back for the second one because he pushed and pushed and pushed for her to go back again. They didn't want her to come back again because she didn't make a disclosure when he finally took her the first time, she didn't say anything. So he pushed and they were like, "No, we're not doing that." And then he kept pushing. They finally left him do it. And so then he took her back again and she made a disclosure against my husband.
Okay. And so what did they say, the investigators say at that point in time? Were you privy to that information?
So at that point though, they had no other evidence and CYS has to have evidence. So from what the police told me and my husband, that they will not usually they will not prosecute somebody, charge somebody or anything like that, unless CYS finds them guilty of child abuse. Like CYS has to find them guilty. It has to meet their standards. They hand it to the police and the police will do their job. But when I called CYS said, and they told me that, how she went the first time and how it went a month and she didn't make a disclosure or anything. They told me they were going to close my husband's case because they didn't have any other evidence to, match or to prove that he did this. So they were going to close his case. So another 2 weeks that went by. I called to ask why I haven't gotten a letter with case being closed. She said that the GAL and dad has been arguing with the Children and Youth Services attorney to give an extension and keep the case open. So I guess they won that battle because they kept the case open. And um and then apparently Cheyenne went to Over the Rainbow again and got a third time to talk to them, which is really unusual. And I didn't find that out until just recently through the attorney because he was collecting evidence. But yeah, so CYS didn't really talk to me much after that, after they got the extension. And then December 28th, everything was quiet for a while. And December 28th came around and there was a knock on my door and the police rushed in and they arrested Morris. They arrested him off of a warrant to, what's it called? It's a search warrant. They arrested him off of a search warrant. They didn't even have an actual arrest warrant, and they did not read him his rights. And they arrested him, and they took
Hold
him
on,
in.
hold on, hold on. She went to the hospital, well, she went to the investigators 2 times. Nothing was said.
Right.
She was, if they were about to drop the case. Someone got an extension on the case. So this would be the third time that she has to go under investigation again.
Right.
And whatever she said caused for a search and seize warrant.
Yes. Yep. A search and seize.
Okay. And so when they did the search and seize, did they specifically say what they were looking for?
They were looking for pictures and looking for Morris's devices because apparently somebody had told them. They didn't say my daughter. They just said somebody had disclosed to them that Morris was taking pictures of the girls, inappropriate pictures of the
Okay.
girls. So they were looking for the devices.
Okay. And so during the search and seize, what happened after that?
They arrested him and took him into custody, but they did not have an actual arrest warrant, and they did not read him his rights. And
Okay,
then
well, when they arrested him, was there any evidence of the search and seize that may have had what they were looking for on any of those devices?
no, and even if there was, there wasn't. But even if somebody wanted to think that there might have been, there wasn't. But they didn't. They arrested him as soon as as soon as they came into the home. People started going to the bedrooms. They took our phones off of us immediately. They put them in a box and they started going back through the house. And the other guy took Morris out of the home and took him outside and arrested him right away.
Oh, so they detained him, arrested him before they even searched the house. They just took
Yeah,
the phones and okay.
yeah.
So we're not sure if they found anything, but we
No,
are
they
for
have.
sure that before they found.
Sorry,
Hmm?
I'm
No,
sorry. No, they
we
haven't.
are sure. Go ahead.
Sorry, they haven't, because that's what I was saying. When I just recently spoke with my husband's attorney, and because he had his preliminary hearing, and they didn't have no evidence other than the child's statement. So my attorney or his attorney has been working on them with providing evidence because they're supposed to provide it, and they said all they have is the video of her statements from Over the Rainbow. That's all they have. So he asked for those videos. So when he was watching those videos, he said he feels he's pretty confident that things will go well for us in the future because he said you can definitely see that she was coached by the way that she's speaking in the video. I don't have much details on that. That's just what he said.
So
She
your attorney was able to possess all the things that they got on the search and seize warrant. Is that what you're stating?
do what?
The search and seize warrant that they came in your house and got, your attorney was able to get all of that evidence as well.
Yeah, and they didn't find anything on the phones or anything.
So according to your attorney, nothing on any devices about any children, any kind of way. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure we have that clear. So I hear that there has been a lot going on in this town now since Morris, like I said, we call him in Lil, but we're going to call him Morris today, has been going on in this town since he's been arrested. So I was able to be privy to the news reporting that they have, and the news report states that not only one child said something, but a few of your children said something. Would that be correct?
Correct. So they're saying that Ariana said something, and in the news articles, they're saying that I forget exactly what all exactly they said, but they're making it sound like all the kids went to the Over the Rainbow, and that's the advocacy center. They did not. The 4-year-old girl Ariana, they're claiming she made allegations also, but I was recently arrested because they said that I was found guilty of corruption of minors. And so I was recently arrested, and in my paperwork, it states the same as my husband's paperwork that Ariana made a disclosure to dad's girlfriend privately in dad's home. And that will never hold up in court because, well, for many reasons, which I'm sure you all can figure out on your own, like it's it just won't hold up because they don't know how the conversation came up. Did the stepmom, coach her, or or did she lie all together and say, hey, Ariana made this statement to me. Like there was nobody around when it happened, and it even states that on my paperwork that privately in dad's home, the 4-year-old made a disclosure to stepmom, and she never actually went to Over the
So
Rainbow, like they're trying to
are
make it
you
sound.
are you saying? Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Are you saying that this private conversation did not go and allow her to go talk to the investigators that they sent your other daughter to,
No,
so that
she
that
didn't.
conversation can be recorded? So
Nope.
what about your son? Because they state that he had a statement as well.
They did state that. I'm not sure where that video is because right now my attorney asked them for all videos, and they're telling him they don't have a video from the advocacy center on Brantley, which is my son. So I'm not sure if they lied about that or not. As far as the disclosure that Brantley made, the disclosure, so after the kids left in September, there was no issues with my son whatsoever or any inappropriate behaviors or anything like that. I was granted to see my son through the ABC house once a week, providing I paid for it and went through the classes and whatever to get approved. So I had to wait. I had to wait on a wait list, which I got approved after a while and did my courses and made my payments. So they reached out to dad to talk to him about setting up a day that I could see the kids at the ABC house. And he flipped out and was like, no, she don't need to see the kids. And they were like, yes, this was in December because it went from September to December because the wait list was that long. So they said it's a court order. You have to allow her to see the kids. So he said fine, and we set up a date to see the kids. And that night, he had called children and youth and said that his son was acting out sexually and kissed his sister's private parts. He was caught kissing his sister's private parts. And I tried telling everybody, I'm like, y'all don't find that funny that he's just following suit of the other man because it's working out for him. So he's like trying to do the same thing. It went from September to December. If a child was going to kiss another child's private parts and act out like that, then they would have done something before that to act out in one way or another. But he hasn't done anything. I said, plus it was the same day that he got mad that I got approved to see the kids. Because that night, like I said, he called children and youth, made a referral, and then he made a referral to children and youth, and then he called my child's therapist, which my child is really attached to that therapist because that therapist had went through him with his trauma, with his hurt from his dad being absent. And then when his dad got custody of him prior to all this, like when we shared custody, his father cigarette burned him with cigarettes. His girlfriend held him down, his dad burnt him. So his dad has a PFA on him to protect the kids. And my son went through all that and really got close to his therapist. And the only reason dad has the kids now is because the court said, well, even though he burnt the kids, it's okay for him to go over his PFA and have custody of the kids, providing the girlfriend supervises him. So the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But So yeah, so
So
obviously the
the
kids are going to be
same
traumatized.
kids that have been in the house, sorry, the same kids that's been in the household with the father and the stepmother, is that the same one who allowed the kids to get burnt? She's supposed to be have supervision?
Yeah, yeah, she's the one because I guess they don't see the problem with her because she don't have a PFA on her, but the only reason they couldn't put a PFA on her is because they said it has to be like a relative or something. Like she didn't meet the standards. She wasn't like a blood relative or whatever. She didn't meet the standards to qualify for a PFA. But nevertheless, in his statement, he still stated that she pinned him down while dad burnt him. But yes, the same woman is allowed to supervise dad's visits.
What is a PFA?
What's that?
What is a PFA?
Protection from abuse order.
Okay. Okay.
So it means that the dad can't have the kids, he can't be around the kids, he can't call the kids, like a no contact order.
Okay. And so he was granted the PFA. Does he have a PFA on him at this very moment still, or did they
Yeah,
take it off?
they can't take it off like that. It's still That's why a lot of people are confused because everywhere else, like you can't just go over a PFA like that. Like even a custody order can't override a PFA like that. So even when I took the kids to give the kids to their father, when he got custody of them, the officer that was there to supervise the exchange, when he heard my daughter-in-law say that there was a PFA, he's like, "Wait, what?" And he told me not to pull the kids out of the car right away. He asked the father, and the father's like, "No, there's not one." And he was like, "Are you sure? When did you check last?" And he was like, "Yeah." He says, "I just checked the other day, and there's no longer a PFA." So the officer came to me and told me, I was like, "I just checked this. The PFA is still in effect." They said the PFA is going to be in effect for the 3 years that it was granted, and they will not remove it. He's like, "Well, then these kids shouldn't be going with him." And I said, "That's why I'm confused." And so he called down to the courthouse himself, and he was like, "Hey, can you look up this number for me? And can you see if there's a current PFA?" They were like, "Yes, there's a current PFA. It's good till 2026. So he was like, "Okay." So there was like a whole he asked Lamar why the Lamar, my child's father, why he lied. And he's like, "I didn't lie." And he's like, "Well, I just called the courthouse." But despite the red flags, after sitting there for like 20 minutes, he thought about it. He was like, "Well," he's like, "just let the kids go with him because I'm supposed to be watching and making sure the kids get to him." And he said, "Just go speak to your custody attorney about the whole PFA thing because that doesn't make sense why the judge ever went over the PFA and gave the kids to him."
This sounds like a nasty, nasty situation. Is
Yeah,
there a
hold on 1 second. There's a
hmm
ambulance going by.
Do you feel like that there's the underlying reason why you're going through all of this, or why Morris is in
Yeah,
jail?
I do because my ex had said to me, my ex-husband Dennis, the guy who has the daughter who said alleged the sexual abuse. Um, he had said to me years ago, that he was going to make me pay for the fact that he got criminally convicted for, abusing my son, and that he can never have firearms again. Like that pissed him off because he's a hunter. And I'm not the only one. Like he said it to me, but a lot of his friends that are no longer his friends anymore because they realized how he was and the type of person he was, had come to me, and had made disclosures to me about some of the things he said, which I wasn't surprised because he said them to me too. And some of those things was that he plans on getting me back. He would tell them like, "I'm gonna make her pay. I'm gonna live to see the day that she's locked up in jail," because he wants me to pay for what happened to him. But I don't understand because like it's not my fault. I didn't turn him in. Somebody else did, and at the end of the day, I didn't tell him to beat the child. He did it on his own free will. So but he's so obsessed with making me pay for his mistake. And as far as the other guy, it's the same thing. They knew each other. Um they grew up together, both of the fathers, in a Mennonite setting. And so they do know each other, and it seems like now they're teaming up to get back at me. Um, and the other father has motive too because, he's pissed off that I got a PFA put on him. in July, and so they're out for revenge. But
But why is Morris in the crossfire if it's about you three?
because I quit working and they knew that, and Morris was like, I think they probably figured if they got rid of Morris, then it would take me down enough that they could get to me, or they took Morris out alleging the sexual abuse and then tried to frame me for being a part of it. Like, I guess it's just a way to try and get to me. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Like taking out
So
the head of the household.
how is Morris holding up at this very moment?
Not well. Um, they refuse to keep him in protective custody. They put him in protective custody and then they move him to general population. He got into a fight. Somebody tried to fight him the 1 week, and then they put him back in protective custody for a couple days, and then put him back in general population. And he got beat up a little bit, and somebody threatened to kill him, pulled a knife on him, and then they put him back in, or he got really depressed over it. So instead of putting him back in protective custody, he stopped eating. So he went on under suicide watch because of everything. And that's where he's currently at right now, is in the suicidal watch unit. So he doesn't get like any free time out of his cell or anything like that. It's just not a good place for him. And I worry about him. Like, I know he's strong and I know he's trying to hold on, but I'm just I feel like we have a good case and a strong case, but it's just time. And they made his bail so high that he can't get out, so he's stuck in there waiting until his trial. And yeah, when I spoke to him today, he's not doing well.
So, Miss Brittany, people would say, or yes, some people would say that you're choosing a man, be a husband or not, over your kids. How do you feel about that statement?
Um, I don't I just kind of been brushing it off because, when I talk, if people don't want to, I tell everybody, like, I have evidence of everything. And I also tell them, like, hey, look, right? So when Morris, when this all came out, I told CYS I was going to take a step back from Morris. I was going to keep him from the kids. And I did send my mom to get her tested. But when the test came back that, he didn't do anything to her, then of course I'm going to be like, okay, especially knowing how my ex is and knowing how he, plots and schemes and always is trying to get back at me. Of course, I'm going to think that he told her to say something. But I still erred on the side of caution up until the point where, like, they started saying that I did shit. Like, oh, she beat the kids. Oh, she raped the kids too. Or she did this and she had sex with her husband in front of the kids. Then I'm like, hold up. I know I didn't do that shit. So if you're going to say I did stuff that I didn't do now, then obviously y'all made up this stuff on my husband too, along with the evidence that I have that proves that he's innocent. Plus, they're saying that, he did this stuff to her back in 2021, which it's like they're just trying to cover their tracks for the investigation that they never did with my ex-husband, because my husband now, Morris, wasn't even around in 2021. As we went over the timelines, like, he wasn't even around until 2022, So it's like there's no evidence, like, there's only evidence that shows that he's innocent. So and most of the time when I start talking to somebody and I show them the evidence and I talk with them like that, they realize, like, hey, and then they come down to, like, oh, they don't think that I'm siding with him over my kids at that point. They usually, like, when I was locked up for a week, I actually told two of my cellmates. I had one cellmate, she left, and I had another one. I actually told both of them what I was in for, stupidly enough, because people was like, oh, they'll beat you up. But I did. And, not that their opinion really mattered, but, they, after I went into the whole story, like, at first they kind of looked at me and you could see that they were kind of pissed at me. And then I went into the whole story with them. And I don't know, I feel like people can just see too, like whenever they talk to me in person, they can see the hurt in my eyes and I go into detail and like they can just tell that I'm not lying. They get a good vibe from me.
So, Miss Brittany, I will say this. Talking to you on a personal level, I definitely feel and understand and rooting for the line of justice. But people who are watching this can see, or from the way that they may portray it, is you're saying it so effortlessly without emotion. Why is that?
I don't show emotion because we're live on the camera and I fight it back because I don't want to cry on the camera. But I mean, there's been times that I break down and cry all the time over it.
Okay. And so, how if we were to talk about Cheyenne, what would be the characteristics of Miss Cheyenne?
You mean like her personality in general?
Yeah.
Um, she's very stubborn, like her mother. Uh, she's very stubborn. I don't know. She's just very outgoing, um, independent. She always has to do everything herself. Um, she's got a big heart. Um, I don't know.
Okay.
One time she was I had hired a private investigator. It's not a secret anymore at this point, but I hired a private investigator after all this took place for them to watch to make sure the dad was being, keeping the girls with the girlfriend around and stuff like that, just kind of watching over the kids. And he had sent me a video footage one day of Cheyenne. The dad brought her back from somewhere. The girlfriend was not around, and Cheyenne and the girlfriend's oldest daughter, who's the same age as my daughter, was with Dennis. And when he pulled into the driveway, both girls exited out of the left side of the vehicle. And Dennis got out, and Cheyenne was yelling at him and pointing her finger at him, and then she stomped around the side of the van and she stood there with her hands crossed. And I had to laugh because it wasn't funny what I was seeing, but I had to laugh because I could picture Cheyenne at the house. Like I said, she's stubborn and she's got an attitude. Like if you do something or you say something about someone and she knows it's not right, she's gonna tell you how it is. That's just all there is to it. You can't, you just can't tell her nothing. So she had her arms crossed and he turned towards her to say something to her, and she went off. She ran up to him and started hitting on him and hitting on him. And then that's where the video cut off. But it raised a lot of suspicions and red flags because that night when dad sent me pictures of the girls, she had a black and blue eye. Like the whole way around her eye was black and blue. So it left me wondering, like, when he got her in the house, did he do something to her for hitting on him? Like I said, it wasn't funny that what was going on. I didn't find that situation funny. It just, I could picture her personality. Like when she was crossing her fist and yelling and stuff, I pictured her doing that. But the thing is, like, I've never had her hit me or my mom or anybody that's corrected her. Like, it's not like she's just like a bratty kid that just hits on people, because she wants her way. She's never hit on any of us. I'm not going to say she's never yelled at me or gotten smart with me because she has, but she's never hit any of us.
So she's sassy. She speaks
Yeah.
her truth, you would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very sassy.
Okay. All right. It's getting close to, I know it's getting late, so I do have just a few more, well, just maybe one more question. If there was anything that, if this platform was to reach anybody, what would it be that that you would need, want, for us to do to seek justice for Morris?
Well, I don't know exactly. Maybe you can help me out with what it's called. I don't remember. Me and Morris had talked over the phone, and he wants everybody to call into the courthouse and um, make phone calls, like some sort of appeal. And I think I told you about that before, and I think you were the one that said it has to wait till after trial. But he said that he made friends with one of the guards in there, and no, like people can call into the courthouse and make some sort of appeal about it. And if it reaches enough, if enough people do it and it raises enough, I forget what he said, then basically they might do something about it. The other thing is, um, so that would be one thing. Do you know what I'm talking about though, Alicia? Like,
I'm not quite sure, but I will check into it.
yeah, because I'm not sure either. That's what he was telling me. He was trying to explain it to me. It's also really hard to hear on the phones. There's very shitty phones.
So is that the only thing that you will want people to know
Yeah,
or try to do?
yeah.
Did you talk about how Moore's character is?
I don't think we did.
Would you like to
Um,
elaborate what Moore's character is?
yeah, Morris is a very kind, generous man who I feel actually really bad for because, like you said, how did he get drug into this with something that was like my situation with my baby daddies? And it's just like it's basically because they don't care. They just do whatever it takes to take me out and get their kids. But I feel bad because here's this man. You know, I have shitty baby dads who don't do nothing for their kids, and here's this man who goes above and beyond. He sacrifices everything so that these kids have. He doesn't look at them as step kids. He looks at them as his own kids. He does everything for those kids. He loves them a lot. And I know that there's no way in hell he would ever hurt my kids. And and it just hurts. It hurts to know that he's in jail for somebody else's crime. Like, I don't know. It's
Understandable. You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I hate it. Like when I got locked up, my bail was cheaper. It was easier to bail me out than him because he's a $500,000 bail. And he told my family, like, just get her out so she can help prove my innocence and we can move on with our lives. But it hurts. Like, I feel like I feel bad because this is in a sense it's my bullshit. He would hate me if I said that. Like, no, it's my bullshit too. I took you on and I took these kids on, but like is my bullshit with my baby daddies and now he's suffering from it the most. And it eats at me all the time. And it eats at me that I got out of jail after a week and he's still stuck in there. Like, I didn't do anything either, but if any of us should be in jail right now, it should be me only because they're my kids. Like, yeah, they're his kids too, but this was my problem, not his problem. It shouldn't be him. He shouldn't be going through this.
Okay. And that same, you were talking to me maybe a couple weeks ago about the police officer that originally did the investigation. Did you have privy to see that police officer again?
I haven't seen her since she came out and arrested my husband.
Okay, so the same officer that was on the case when it was previously your ex-husband is the one of the investigators on this case, which is with your husband now, correct?
Yeah, yeah, she's the same one. Yep.
What was her name again?
Trooper Lindsay H. Trace.
Okay. Just want to get that name out there. We're not going to keep you too much longer, Miss Brittany. I thank you for telling us the story, letting us be aware of what the situation is that's going on with Enlil. We do send out condolences. Anything that anybody can do to help, please call us, text us, email, send a message, let us know. I'll keep talking to you a little bit later, Brittany. I'm gonna close out and then I will call you later. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too. Good night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize that this was a different type of show. I did want to just give you or have you guys abreast of what was going on, especially since this has been someone that gives us a lot of um, information. Not sure. We hope for the best as always. Um, I did or will be starting the podcast from here on every 2 weeks, and I will also give you guys updates as I get them. I thank you again for looking or listening to us at this time. Like, comment, subscribe, anything that you guys can do to help.